Right guys, I'm in Lombok, Gili. In a few days I'm flying to France, so it's time to pack the boat up. I'm Vernon and this is my 12-metre catamaran Trade Runner. Together we've just sailed the boat up from Sydney, Australia, 4,000 miles up to Lombok in Indonesia, and now we're on a mooring buoy at Gili in the south part of Lombok. Gili is a beautiful little tropical island. Trade Runner will be at home there for the next 4 months while I go back to Europe and we have a little family. Okay, we've got a fairly big list of things to do, so I'm going to be gone about 4 months when obviously Marie and baby and I will come back, hopefully late January 2024. So in the meantime, you can't just park the boat and leave it. Well, I don't like to do it that way. I basically winterize the boat. Apart from here, it's not cold, it's not about the ice. It's basically just packing everything away just to reduce the chances of sun damage, saltwater damage, and also just taking things out of plain sight just reduces temptation from people. The people here in this village are awesome. I'm paying them to look after the boat. But at night time, if people go past during the day, fishermen and whatnot, and they see stuff just lying around, pretty easy to take. So take everything off the boat. Here's a list of sort of things I'm going to do. Taking the 2 front sails off. The main sail's in the bag. I'll cover that up perfectly. That's all good. I'm going to take the speed wheel out of the hull. So basically all 3 hulls have to be closed. I will take all the salt water out of the cooling systems on the engines. I will also fill up the diesel tanks completely and also put some diesel additive in there that just reduces the risk of any diesel bug, things like that. What else do I have to do? I'm going to put the other covers on the boat. I take all the electronics that I can take off. I do take off. I'll lift the dinghy up. I'll take the outboard inside, all the fishing rods put inside. I'll wash down the anchor chain and the anchor well as good as I can with fresh water. Turn the fridges off, freezers off. Foodstuffs that are open, that are sugary, all have to get off the boat. So for the last couple of weeks, we haven't really bought any food. Just been trying to use up our old stocks, at least stuff that's open already. Basically strong plastic bags that are still closed, any canned goods, things like that I'll keep. If I was going for 2 years, obviously I'd get rid of everything, but 4 months is okay. But anything open, like sugar, honey, jam, things like that are open, that might attract insects to the boat while we're gone, it's all got to get off the boat. So I basically make a big box of that stuff up and I'll take it over to the village here and give it to the locals. I've got a few blocks of butter, things like that. I might just ask if there's any other sailors around here. I think the locals don't use butter probably, so they don't have a fridge, so it's not much use to them. But I'll give them what I can, and then, I'm not throwing anything away basically. I'll wipe down all the surfaces, roofs and sides and all that with a solution of 50% vinegar and water. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else at the moment, so if there is, I'll show you here. Anyway, let's get stuck in. Okay, so first job on the list is to get the sails down. Trade Runner comes with 2 sails up front. It's got a 37 square metre jib and a 50 square metre screecher, which is basically a Janica light hair sail. Screecher comes down first. It's relatively easy. It's on a torsion line with its own furler. So basically just let the whole thing down, fold it up, unclip the top from the halyard, unclip the bottom from the tack line on the end of the prodder, fold it up and wrap it up and throw it downstairs. Relatively easy, and that's a good one to get down. The reason for getting these sails off the boat basically is just to get them out of the sun. They have UV strips on them, but they obviously wear in the sun as well, and it costs you a few $100 to put a new UV strip on. So anytime we're not using them, just get them out of the sun. Another reason would be windage. If it's a lot of wind comes up, they catch the wind more, which puts pressure on the mooring and your bridle and all that sort of stuff. So just reduce windage, always good. In the past year, we haven't used our Indiana stand-up paddleboards as often as we normally would. Too bloody cold and windy in New South Wales. Anyway, since I've been back in Indonesia, had them blowing up and using them every morning. Really nice to get back paddling at sunrise every day. Part of our sponsorship deal with Indiana is that we provide them with photography of their next year's models, which they provide us with early. Normally I do it with myself and Marie, but she's not around and it's hard to take photos of just myself. So I went over to the resort and found a couple of willing young Swiss maidens who were more than keen to jump on the paddleboards and be photographed. So here's a few shots of that. Indiana were very, very happy to have, Swiss girls on Swiss boards. As you can see here, I'm just packing them up, getting them out of the way. Just another thing, put them out of sight, out of mind. Okay, up next is the engines. This is one of the bigger jobs on Trade Runner. She's got 2 engines. They're nanny 21 horsepower 3-cylinder diesels, and their shaft drives are midships, as you can see. So what I like to do when I leave the boat for a certain amount of time is get rid of all the salt water out of the system. So that involves turning off the seacock where the water comes in from the ocean, and then basically running the engine, adding fresh water to the cooling system, and that'll just pump it through. So I just take the cap off the water strainer and tip 20 litres of water in there as the engine's running, and that just basically pumps it through, puts it out the exhaust, and then I turn the engine off, leave what water's in there, and that's it. It's just to lower corrosion basically. There's anodes, etc., but just getting salt water out of the system is just a plus. And so all I have to do when I arrive back is open the seacock, and basically away we go. It'll just start pumping salt water through. So that's a relatively easy job, but it's a bit time consuming. And also when I get back, I'll also do a full engine service. There's no point in doing that, letting the oil sit in the engine for those months while I'm gone. Okay, we're on to day number 2 now, and I'm up early. As a lot of you know, in the tropics, early is very calm normally. So that's especially when you're doing it by yourself, when you want to get sails down before the wind comes up. The last thing you want is a gust to come up when you've got your jib out and you're trying to handle it by yourself. So anyway, up at the crack of dawn, getting this jib off. It's not as easy as the screecher because I've got to flake it. It's got to come down the foil of the furler, and I've got to flake it as it comes down. So I'm standing up by the furler with the halyard in my hand, sort of pulling it down, trying to control it, and then once it's down, I sort of then redo it a little bit, but not a big drama if it's calm. That also gets put in its bag and thrown downstairs. Next up, electronics. Obviously everything from the cockpit needs to be taken away just from a theft point of view, but also for me, everything that I can take off the network, basically that's attached to any other cables, it's minimizing my risk in the case of a lightning strike. So obviously here the chart plotter, the radio, moving right along, the paddle wheel. This has to come out. Basically anything a through hull, they've all got to be turned off, and the paddle wheel is a through hull. The other reason to take it out is it's obviously just going to get growth on it and it's going to get clogged up, and I might as well just not have it in the water. So mine's a Ray Marine unit, and it comes with a blank. So basically you just pop out the paddle wheel. There's a little flap that goes down and stops most of the water coming into the boat. You bang in the blank, tighten it up, and then soak up the little bit of water that came in. Bob's your uncle. As I'm leaving trade run on a mooring, my anchor is unused. So it's not really the anchor that's the problem, it's the chain. So the chain sits in the bottom of your anchor well in a big bunch, and it's been in salt water. It's probably still got mud on it and a bit of weed and things like that, and it's going to sit there for 4 months and just fester and go, start going rusty. You don't want to come back and just have a rusty pile of chain. Not a massive amount I can do about it without taking the whole thing out, but I can minimize that by rinsing it down with as much fresh water I've got available. So here I'm basically just spreading the chain out as much as I can, sluicing water over it, having a bit of a brush by hand, and doing that a few times, and each time sort of turning the chain over as much as I can just to try and get the most of the salt off it. And that's about all I can do really. Whew, there's a pretty long day, but as you can see I'm making progress. I'm ticking things off. Next thing I want to do is fill up my diesel tanks. Now you may say, well, why are you filling them up? You're not going anywhere. The thing is diesel bug. Diesel bug is a big thing in the tropics, and it comes from condensation. It comes from water in the fuel basically. The bug starts then growing on the water molecules in the fuel. So if your fuel tanks are half full, and obviously there's a lot of temperature difference between the day and the night here, your diesel tanks will basically just sweat. The condensation will drip down off the top of the tank and into the water, and then there's your problem. So basically what you need to do is either leave your tanks completely empty, bone dry, or completely full. There should be no air in them. So that's what I'm doing here. I've done all my engine things. The engines won't be turned on again, so I'm filling them up to the brim, doing the caps back up. I'm putting a little bit of additive in as well, anti-bug additive that I bought from Australia, and I should be good to go with my fuel system. The added thing is when I get back, the diesel tanks are full, ready to go. Trade runner came with a bunch of covers. On the port and starboard sides of the cockpit, there's a cover that goes over the helm position. There's one that goes down the back and covers the back of the cockpit, and then there's another one that goes basically over the boom and covers the whole central part of the boat. Put all these on, protects the paint from sun, protects the winches, protects whatever ropes and lines are around, and just keeps the water out of the boat too. Some of you viewers here have been commenting on my unruly appearance, my hair. You are right, I hadn't cut it for at least 6 months. Basically, I was just like, I'm not cutting it until I get to Lombok. So in the end of the afternoon, I took the little boat over to town and went and found Sam, a local guy from Lombok, who gave me a cut for $2.50. Sam?
Yeah. His name is Sam.
Looking better already. More clean.
Yeah. But it's not done yet.
Not finished yet?
Yeah.
No, you have to do the finishing touch. How do you like the result? A bit cleaner, eh? The ride back to Giliasahan was a stunner. Well, that sunset is absolutely amazing. What a romantic trip for me and the water bottles. Alright, last day on the boat today. Flying out to Jakarta this afternoon. Well, actually in about 2 hours time. So I'm doing the last of the stuff. And here I've got the outboard motor running. It's probably a bit annoying. But what I'm doing is just emptying the carburetor. So I've taken the fuel hose off and I'm just running the engine till it dies, so that there's no fuel in the carburetor. The reason I do that is, well, A, I'm going to put the motor inside so it's not temptation, it's not sitting out here. So I don't want it to smell of petrol, but also the same as with the diesel tanks. Leaving fuel in something, it'll just end up being condensation, and then I'll have to take that carburetor off and clean all the jets out when I get back, which I might do anyway, but just good practice. Just run the fuel out of your outboard motors before you put them away. Alright, we're going to pack that one up, and that's another big job done. So I'm leaving my high fuel dinghy on the davits. I'm going to be away during rainy season, so it's obviously going to pour down here. If the dinghy would fill up with water, that's several hundred litres, and it would probably just snap the davits, to be honest. So obviously front has to be higher, back has to be lower, and you got to make sure that the bung's out and it's free of leaves and everything. So this next one's a tip for you that I don't see many people doing, to be honest. So I've got prop speed on. You saw me apply that in a video earlier on. Prop speed's sort of I guess silicon based. It works by making the surface of the propellers too slippery for barnacles to attach to. So when the propeller's spinning, it just flips them off. If your boat's sitting for 4 months, that's not happening. So what I do is get strong plastic bags and put them over the propellers, zip tie them on, job done. You can't get any barnacles in there. You come back, cut the zip tie, take the bag off, away you go. Very simple, very easy way to extend the life of your prop speed. Okay, we're really on the home stretch now. Fridges have been turned off, de-iced, freezer's empty, got a few beers in there, but other than that, and I put them in there because if they would pop, it's a sealed container, so they're not going to leak everywhere. The last of the seacocks, that's the saltwater intake for the kitchen, that gets turned off. Everything on the switchboard basically is turned off. The only things left on is one solar panel, the masthead light, and the bilge pumps. Everything else turned off, so that's that done. It's always a bit of a nervous feeling leaving the boat. Just, you just got to leave it there and trust that you've done everything right and that there won't be a massive storm or a lightning bolt or people steal things. You just have to trust that you've done your due diligence basically, and leave and hope that when you come back it'll be all same as you left it. I caught a big bird from Lombok to Jakarta, Jakarta to Doha, and then as the sun came up, the big bird swung over the Lake of Geneva.
Cabin crew, prepare for landing.
And plopped me down in Switzerland. And I was on to a whole new adventure. You guys wouldn't believe what's coming up next. Got to give a massive shout out to all the patrons and supporters on PayPal as well. This mad dash, it's been a big trip. It's cost a fair bit of money, bit of damage here and there, but it's been awesome as well. And now we are set up for our new adventure that's coming up and for our next adventures sailing around Indonesia, Sulawesi 2024. Boom. Hope you'll come and enjoy this adventure with us. Bye bye for now.